r/askreddit. What harmful things are being taught to children? Teaching kids not to question things just because someone is older, or allegedly wiser, is one of the most frustrating things that I see on a daily basis. How is a child supposed to ever develop any individual and nuanced ideas if they can't think for themselves? Being wrong is bad. That's why many people don't change their mind when they were given trustable sources. They don't want to be wrong. No is a bad word. It's a strong word but not a bad one. I could never tell an adult no growing up because it was a rude word. Becoming an adult is weird. It took me a while to realize I could change things about my life that I didn't like or were making me unhappy, and literally no one would stop it or tell me I couldn't. I'm in my 30s and still have trouble telling people no. I'd say no if it was something extreme, but I'm polite to people I shouldn't be polite to. And it's not because I'm polite, it's because I'm too much of a chicken shit to be rude back. Nobody cares about children's, teens' issues. Well, it's only going to get worse from here. You think school is hard? Have you ever paid a ducking bill? You're just a kid, you can't feel this way. It breeds an emotional disconnect from parents and their kids. And makes kids feel alone in their emotional struggles, that nobody cares because they're not adults and they don't have adult problems. Listen earnestly to anything your children want to tell you, no matter what. If you don't listen eagerly to the little stuff when they are little, they won't tell you the big stuff when they are big, because to them all of it has always been big stuff. Catherine Wallace. Children do learn about sex at a young age, it just isn't usually in a productive way. I know I did. My own experience, questions like this are why I believe in being infinitely clear with my kids. You are going to hear total crap from other kids. If you hear something you don't understand, come talk to me. You can ask me anything and expect a decent answer. And I would give examples of the total crap I had heard as a kid, most of which would result in pregnancy. Son, age 6. Daughter, age 7. Riding home from school, daughter says, Tiffany said she had sex with my brother. Which left me a grand total of 3 minutes to gather my wits before we got home. Okay, do you guys know what sex is? Blank looks. Sex is when you take off all of your clothes and rub privates together. You can make babies that way. Looks of shock and disgust. Do you think your brother had sex with Tiffany? No. I think she was using a really bad way of trying to say she likes him, and maybe she watches the wrong TV shows where if people like each other they always have sex. Were my kids really ready for a sex talk? No, not really. They didn't care. Did we really need to have one about then? Yep. My job as a parent is to be there to put things that come up in context for them, not run around after them deciding what and when they need to know things. This is something I will always stand firm on. If the child is old enough to ask the question, they are old enough to know the answer. Do you need to sit down and draw a diagram and pull out textbooks when they're 7? Probably not. But if they're asking questions about misinformation they're hearing from other kids, I'm going to do my best to be honest and answer in a way that they will, hopefully, be able to understand. Being discouraged to speak up about illnesses because it makes them weird, something's wrong with them. They talk about like, you need therapy, which isn't a bad concept and you probably do need it, but they picture it in such a bad light. So true. My mom once told me something along the lines of, don't say you have depression, do you even know that it's a serious illness? Yeah, I know it's serious, that's why I tried to talk to you about it. Basically all those shit social media influencers that teach young people that it's all about money and brand names. And this is why we have a whole generation that wants to be Twitch streamers and YouTube stars. Probably not harmful, but in kindergarten we were prohibited from playing soccer because it was too dangerous. We were kindergarteners. We probably would stand there and kick the ball, not go full on FIFA or shit. They did this at my kid's school. Slowly banned every activity during recess because a kid would get hurt. Then they made PE a once a week thing. My children were bouncing off the walls when they got home from school. It was nearly impossible for them to sit down and do homework because they had been sitting all damn day. Kids are starting social media so early these days, and I think that's very dangerous because it puts a lot of pressure on the kid to attribute their worth to their social media success. I also think parents are way too open with their social media when it comes to their kids, and it's totally a violation of the child's privacy, of which some parents will never admit. The amount of parents I see on social media just sharing everything that happens in their child's life is astounding. Maybe Bobby doesn't want everyone to know that tried out for the school play but he didn't make it. That may not be a big deal to you, but Bobby might be really upset right now, and having everyone his mom knows giving opinions on the subject probably won't help. Sucks even when a parent is just verbally going off about what's going on in my life without asking, let alone posting it online. One of my parents bragged to everyone I was going to a private university for law. Later on we decided I couldn't go BC of the cost. Now having to have that discussion with everyone they'd told was exhausting. Now imagine that shit stain on Facebook. Seriously. I used to hate when my parents would gossip about my life to their friends. Imagine what it's like now with parents broadcasting to 500 people they barely even know about you. If he's mean to you, he likes you. It just teaches little girls, mostly girls, to expect violence from people who love them. My mom told me that when a boy in kindergarten would bully me, I wasn't his only target. He did this to everyone else in the class at least once during the school year. I never understood it and never tried to. Later on, my dad stepped in to tell me what the boy did was wrong and his behavior was not a sign of him liking me. I'm a guy who was bullied by girls and was told the same thing. Not denying the girl perspective, but stuff happens both ways. It's the same for guys, maybe even worse. I've always been told that if a girl bullies me, she likes me. No, she does not. There's zero flirting, just bullying. People teach this both ways. Whenever I told my dad about some girl that was being mean to me, he would with fail say, she probably likes you. I think what we're not taught is more harmful. For example, the fact that we never learn, at least in my country, how to fact check things. They've told us to fact check but not well. We learned some things like how to tell if a source is reliable but not to compare information to different sources. Fox and CNN, for example, often have very different takes on the same issue, and it's important to see both sides. Fact-checking requires a willingness to question the statements of an authority figure. Historically, authority figures do not tend to encourage people to question them with any degree of frequency. Loyal followers have a rather strong tendency to discourage such mindsets even more religiously than the authority figures themselves. Their particular discouragement is typically rather narrowly focused towards reducing the questioning of their beloved leader, but has the effect of discouraging the mindset on a broader scale, as well. Personal economics, opening a bank account, paying bills, how interest works, how credit scores and shit work, essentially things that are vital to building up your life as an adult that literally no one teaches you directly till it's usually a bit too late. That failure is bad. Failing should not be considered as an obstacle but a step in the learning process. Demonizing the failure and stigma associated with it makes many children lose their interest once they fail. This but also the humiliation that comes with failing. If failure is to be considered a learning process, then people need to be taught not to laugh at the people who have failed. This is an issue that I struggle with. I was so afraid of failure growing up. I didn't really fail at school or anything major while growing up, so I often have a hard time handling failure. No backtalk. Many adults use it as, you're not allowed to challenge what I have to say. Makes sense if it's a cranky toddler being negative for negativity's sake, but suddenly older children can't question things or raise valid points of their own. My parents stayed at my house for a few weeks while they closed on their new house, and this subject came up. I told them how stupid their mindset was to this growing up, followed up by 20+ examples of times if they had listened to me as a kid we would not have been in shit situations. I hope every time they started arguing you yelled, "This is my house." No backtalk. Just to get the point across. Once when I was 7, my family went out to eat. I told my mom that the chicken wasn't cooked right and that I wouldn't eat it, and that I didn't want them to. My mom told me not to talk back or be disrespectful. Everyone ate it but me. Everyone got food poisoning but me. Imagine a child having a reasonable and unique thought that's also accurate. Crazy. That complaining is the same as not being grateful. Can't count the number of times growing up when adults basically told me to shut up whenever I was complaining about something and that I should be grateful that I was born where I was. Like sure, I'm glad I wasn't born into some starving African family, but that doesn't mean everything is perfect over here and that we shouldn't try to improve things here as well. I agree. That mindset causes people to become complacent and apathetic with life, so they never strive for improvement. You do not have to play with everyone. There is a total lack of social accountability. If Laura is always cheating at tag, it's okay to not let her play. If little Billy throws sand in the sandbox, little Timmy does not have to play with him. Laura and Billy need to learn how to play appropriately. You show me respect first because I'm an adult and have authority, then I choose whether I should show you respect. No other way. There is difference between treating someone with respect and respecting someone. We all deserve to be treated with respect, but we need to earn being respected. That they shouldn't question an adult. So true. Because of that logic, many kids think that every adult is responsible and trustworthy, when in reality it's clearly not the case. It was a really weird thing going through college because I began to think more for myself and question adults. It makes you realize how complicated the world is because as a kid you assume exactly as you've said. It was almost jarring to realize that my parents did not, in fact, know everything. It did take a lot of pressure off of me to learn everything in order to be an adult. I didn't know until then that I felt that way. It's so weird. Making children hug or kiss someone, usually a relative, that they are uncomfortable with is not good. The child may just be grumpy and or not wanting to show affection, or their warning bell sensors could be going off and they do not know how to communicate that. Plus, forcing them to hug, kiss sends mixed messages about personal, physical boundaries and affection itself. I've always disliked too much physical contact, and people would always act like it was blasphemy that I didn't want to give them a hug. Happened to my son in middle school. A kid sucker punched my son. My son then fought back and pinned the kid against the wall. He has long arms, and punched him a few times. The school called me and my wife and told us our son was suspended. We went to the school and they said even though multiple witnesses as well as the kid said he threw the first punch, that the school had a zero tolerance policy, so our son would be suspended. We asked what the school believed our son should have done and they said he should just walk away. We told them that he would not be receiving any punishment at home and that the policy was ducked up. That's for their insurance policies. They don't give a damn what happens to the kids in that scenario as long as they don't get sued. If you have a different opinion than someone, you hate them, and that's wrong. Also, people seem to be taught this incorrect notion that every disagreement has to be an argument, so backing down, admitting that you were wrong, or changing your mind are considered losing. It's totally fine to change how you feel about an issue when presented with new information. It doesn't make you weak. Of course. It takes more courage to admit you're wrong and be open to change than to keep fighting a losing battle. Ignore bullies and they'll leave you alone. When you do that, one of two things are likely to happen. Either they'll mess with you more, or they'll move to someone else and bully them. If you stand up to bullies, they back down. The earlier in life you put these people in their place, the less likely they'll develop their bad behavior as a lifelong practice.